which is on Module 2, Parts 1 and 2. And again, my name is Debra Jackson. I am a trainee in the National ROMA Trainer Program. And I'm going to be conducting the next, you've got 3 more workshops after this one. But we have 2 new people with us today who weren't here last session, and if I could get them to introduce themselves just by giving their name, position, and program that you're in, and what do you want to get out of this training. And we'll start with group number 2. What's your name?
Good morning. I'm Kathy Snyder. I'm the Assistant Director at Community Action Partnership, and I oversee not just the programmatic but the fiscal part of the various programs that we operate.
Okay. And what would you like to get out? What are you hoping to get out of the ROMA training?
I'm looking forward to learning to see how we actually find what we actually do in the community and the results that we actually attain, rather than just reporting numbers, just actually what the result is in the future of each of those programs.
Okay, great.
And how they affect the people that we serve.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and group number 4 has a new person.
Hello there, Richard Lemire, and I am the Senior Public Information Officer for the Community Action Partnership for Riverside County, and see all of our outreach efforts. And what I'd like to get out of this, of course, I heard rumors of Mr. Treats, so I'm really excited about that from that first session. But to see how what ROMA does help tell the story of what this agency does better. So I think that is a great tool to allow me to know more and what to share the successes with the community.
Okay, thank you. Kathy and Richard, and welcome to the workshop. Richard mentioned Mr. Treats. He is back today, but he was so overworked in the last session that he decided to bring his children. So each table has a child and an owl. And so, you know, please feel free to help yourself. And if you're not finding what you want in your child owl, please feel free to share amongst, amongst the groups, as you go along. We're going to be doing a number of exercises today as we explore mission statements and community assessments. However, before we start, next to your nameplate, you should have what looks like a test. And I would like for you to take a couple minutes to do this pre-test. It looks like this. And we'll give you a couple minutes to do that. And once you've completed it, just set it aside, and we will go over the answers for it at the end of the workshop. While you guys are working on that, I'm going to just move on to the next page. I hope everybody brought their books with them today. Okay, and if you'll turn to page 13, this is the start of Module 2. And Module 2 is actually divided into 2 sections. The first part is on mission statements, and the second part is on community assessments. You'll see at the bottom of the page there are 7 learning objectives. For the first section on mission statement, it is covered by the first 2 learning objectives. Can I get a volunteer to read those out loud for me? Okay, Richard.
The learning objectives. Participants are introduced to Peter Drucker's management framework as a support for ROMA principles and practices. Participants will be able to understand the purpose of a mission statement and identify its elements. Participants identify the difference between family.
Oh, okay, just the first 2.
Just first 2.
Okay, because the other 5 objectives actually tie to the second session. which is on community assessment. So once we get there, we'll read the following, the remaining 5 objectives. We'll come back to it. In order to accomplish the first 2 objectives for section 1, I'm going to introduce you to Peter Drucker and the Drucker Foundation Self-Assessment Workbook. I'm going to help you answer Peter Drucker's first question, which is, what is our mission? And we're going to review and write mission statements, and I'll explain to you about mission change and mission drift, and there's a difference between those 2. But before we start, I'd like to quickly recap some of the key points from Module 1 that we did 2 weeks ago on the history, purpose, and perspective of ROMA. And so the first point is that result-oriented management and accountability, which is ROMA, is a set of principles and practices that have grown out of a very rich history. Standardized reporting of outcomes was mandated in 2001 for all community action agencies. The current reporting tool that we use is based on the National Performance Indicators, the NPIs. The framework for achieving outcomes includes a full range of management and accountability activities that are depicted in the ROMA cycle. If you guys remember the cycle, the chart where we've got assessment, we have planning, then we have implementation, achievement of results, and evaluation. And as these modules and workshops go along, you'll see how everything we're doing ties into one of those points on the cycle. So today we're looking at assessment. What is it that you're doing, and how do you know what it is that you're doing? And what gives you guidance for that? And there was a renewed focus on performance measurement. ROMA is defined as a form of management practice that incorporates the use of outcomes or results into the administration, management, and operation of human services. And that's very unique to community action agencies. The successful implementation of ROMA must originate from a conceptual framework that is designed for the community action agency, but framed within what community action is all about. Part about changing the lives of people who are in poverty. What ROMA does is that it distinguishes from collecting and reporting data for compliance purpose to reporting results. You know, what have you achieved? What have you done? It's taking your agency from the 1,000-foot level, which is the bare basic. And remember, I had mentioned that Ms. Washsmith, sir, I always mispronounce her name, but who had been the director of OES, had mentioned that many of the community action agencies are just simply unremarkable. And what we want is to take your agency to the 10,000-foot level that makes it remarkable, or if you're already there, to keep you there. The Drucker book for self-assessment and foundation teaches a well-respected business practice for structuring this conceptual framework. This copy is from the CCAP Riverside Library, and I'm certain that your planning manager would be more than happy to check this book out to you if you would, like to borrow it and take a look at it. Otherwise, I'll have it up here on the table, and you're more than welcome to look at it during the break. But I'm going to be referring to it from time to time. This particular book is really a wonderful book about the 5 questions that Drucker asks, and you'll be getting a copy of that. But is also geared primarily towards boards and for boards to use to develop that framework for which agencies are guided. So, before we talk about mission statements for this section, let me tell you a little bit about Peter Drucker. How many, by show of hand, how many of you have heard of or are familiar with Peter Drucker? Okay, so we can skip to the next, no, sorry. Okay, so Peter Drucker was the world's most recognized management consultant. He passed away in 2005, but before he passed away, he wrote quite a bit of literature, really added to the body of knowledge when it comes to management, not only of the non-profit sector, but of the private sector. His teaching is included in ROMA curriculum because of his expertise in working with nonprofits as well as the nonprofit sector. He didn't work as much with public, and I realize that you guys are a public community action agency, but the principles still apply. I don't know how many of you are aware that at the Claremont colleges, there is the Peter Drucker School of Management. It's only a 45-minute drive from here one day if you want to go over and visit them. But they have graduate level degrees in management that are based on Drucker's principles and practices. His workbook is a tool that community action agencies can use to operate their programs and their services, delivery of their services. And it also provides a context within to place ROMA, how you implement ROMA within your organization. It's very easy to use. And Drucker, there's a set so everyone at your table could get one of these copies. He has what are called the 5 questions, 5 key questions that your organization should be able to answer in order to identify what is happening within your agency. We're going to deal with the first question in this section of Module 2, which is, what is our mission? So, and then we will deal with questions 2 and 3. Who is our customer, and what does the customer value in part 2 of our session? Okay, so one of the things that I want you to know about Drucker is that the framework that he developed, as is laid out in his workbook, places the development and the utilization of results or outcomes as the central concept of the management process. So without results and without outcomes, you don't really know where you're going. You're just doing things. But for what purpose? What are you trying to accomplish? What is, remember, community action is about making changes. So what are the changes? And the outcomes are not developed in isolation. We mentioned that in Module 1. It is more of a embracing type concept of everything that you do as an agency, particularly in reference to these 5 questions. It's important to know because nonprofits generally are mission driven, and community action agencies should also be mission driven, even the public ones that are in addition to the nonprofit community action agencies. And it's important for us to note that the mission reflects that, is reflective of it. So if you could please turn to page 14 in your books. And if I could we're going to get some record quotes into you. There will be a quiz. So anyone who can memorize these Drucker quotes or come up with one of them,
That's right.
gets the content of Mr. Treats back on the table, along with the chocolate peanut butter. Okay, so can I get a volunteer to read the director quote in paragraph 2 that starts with each social sector?
Each social sector institution exists to make a distinctive difference in the lives of individuals and in society. Making this difference is the mission, the organization's purpose and very reason for being. A mission cannot be impersonal. It has to have deep meaning and be something you believe in.
Okay. Is there,
And then the Drucker question 1 is, what is our mission?
okay. Something you know, okay. So the other, I guess I have something a little bit more than that, where it says a fundamental responsibility of leadership is to make sure that everyone knows the mission, understands it, and lives it. Okay, that may have just been from my trainer guide,
Oh, yeah,
but there's
'cause
a,
we have
Drucker quote for it.
Yeah.
Okay, the rest of it. Okay, and so it is that everybody understands it and knows it, and I understand that your agency really practices, puts it into practice, whereas the commissioners read it at each board meeting, commission meeting, and that staff recite it at each staff meeting. So that it isn't something that just sets out on the letterhead or on your publication. It's something that you embrace and that you engage every day. So now, if I could get someone to read the quote in the gray box that's on page 14. A new volunteer.
The agency mission is a concise description of the agency's purpose. It is a foundational statement upon which the agency builds. It says why the agency is in business.
Okay. And one final quote, record, well, it won't be the final record quote of the day, but for right now. The effective mission statement is short and sharply focused. It should fit on a t-shirt. The mission says why you do what you do, not the means by which you do it. The mission is broad, but it is even eternal. Yet it directs you to do the right things now and into the future so that everyone in the organization can say, what I am doing contributes to the goal. So it must be clear and it must be inspiring. So think about that. When you think about the mission statement for community action, is it something that you can walk away as program manager saying, every day I'm contributing to the goal? Okay, so keep that in mind, just a little reflective. So to sum this up, mission statements should address 2 key items. Why are we in business? And what results are we trying to achieve? So it's important for us as community action agencies to connect Drucker's message with the ROMA message. And one way to do this is referencing the 6 national goals in your mission statement. And as you'll see, I put the 6 national goals back up for you. They are what elements are a part of the 6 national goals. There's 3 of them. Anybody remember from the last workshop? Or close enough to read it? Okay.
Logical people become more self-sufficient.
Okay, but if we've got 3 different levels, as I should say, as opposed to elements. There are 3 different levels that are family, agency, and community. Everything, as you see on the last diagram, they all overlap, and they are all elements that should be reflected within whatever it is that you're doing, and particularly in designing your mission statement. These goals make us unique in the human service field. What's important is that it's their anti-poverty mission that was established in legislation, by legislation. And can anyone tell me what was the legislation 50 years ago?
Economic Opportunity Act.
Yeah, Economic Opportunity Act. So the mission statement is the first place to search for if you're achieving or working towards those goals. And we are here to make a difference in human lives, and our mission statement should be guiding us towards that. So if you want to look at the bottom of page 14, would someone read the first bullet that starts with population? Okay, Olga, thank you.
Is the population to be served identified? Does the mission identify low income or other designation? Is there a geographic target for population?
Okay, thank you. How about someone taking number 2?
Sure. Can you tell from the mission statement the types of services that are administered by the organization or its referrals? As Drucker says, the hospital isn't going to sell shoes and it's not going into education. It's going to take care of the sick.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Third bullet, someone who hasn't read yet? Kathy, thank you.
Are the expected and achieved outcomes clearly stated? Can you tell what will change?
Thank you. And the final bullet.
Is there any identification of relationships with other organizations that show the connections that help further its mission?
Okay. These are the 4 key elements that should be in any mission statement: population, outcome, services, and relationship. And if you don't have, particularly as a community action agency, if you don't have that incorporated in your mission, you really need to go back and think about what's guiding you in terms of your identity and your purpose and your role within the community that you're serving. So we are going to do some exercises with some mission statements. And I'm going to hand out to your tables some sample mission statements, some pens. What will we do without being able to mark up stuff? Okay, so here's your mission statement. Scan. Okay. And we're going to work with these to see how well you identify the different elements in each of these mission statements. So we're going to do the first one together as a group. So what I'd like for you to do is I need to get a volunteer to read the first mission statement for me.
To advocate for, support, and train CSBG-funded agencies utilizing our collective strength to eradicate poverty.
Okay. So we're going to start coding. If one person at your table would volunteer the circle on their sheet as we go along, as we identify this, we'll do that together instead of up on the flip chart. Okay. This happens to be a mission statement for a CSBG state office. Okay. So who do you think the population is?
The CAAs.
The CSBG funded agency. So if the scribe would circle that with blue, okay, what's the outcome?
Eradicate poverty?
Correct. Okay, if you could circle eradication of poverty with purple. What are the services?
Advocating, supporting, and training.
Yes, okay. So that gets circled in orange. Services are to advocate for, support, and train. And what is the relationship on this one?
Collective strength?
Yes, collective strength. It's a little bit of a stretch. Typically, relationships are spelled out more, but collective strength is good for that. Okay.
These are brand new markers.
Very good. The markers aren't working?
They're brand new. Like,
Oh.
I'm like, whoa.
Yes, they're scented too. Some of them are scented. Yes, we went to Toys R Us and got those markers.
They're happy markers.
So if you could look at page 15, if I could get someone to read what is in the gray box at the top, at the top of the page. Okay, Claudia, thank you.
Think of the mission statement as a sound bite. Can the organization's mission be communicated clearly and concisely in a matter of seconds? Can the organization's mission be understood by the general public or your neighbor?
Okay. So now let's apply the 4 elements to this, keeping all of this stuff in mind. And each table has a mission statement from the sheet, example sheet that they're going to work on and share. So table 1, you're going to take mission number 2. Table 3, you're going to take mission number, table 2, I'm sorry, we'll take mission statement number 6. Okay, mission 3, you're going to take
Mission 3.
group mission 3, yeah, you'll take mission 3. And mission 4 will take 5. So again, that's 1 will take 2, 2 will take 6, 3 will take 3, and 4 will take 5. And what I need you to do is to, as a group, go through these 4 elements. You can refer back to your sheet. And you want to keep in mind, is there language that identifies the population served? Is there a description of services or type of interviews, language that is clear as to desired results, outcomes, and impacts the organization is trying to achieve? And is there a language referencing relationships to community? And is the mission clear, concise? Could you put it on a t-shirt? Or could you use it as a sound bite? Or could you put it on the back of a business card? So you'll need to have someone in your group be willing to report out. And you have 10 minutes to work on this. And we'll start with the last group, group number 4. And you guys had,
Number 5.
you had number 5. Okay, so let's have your scribe, whoever's appointed to do the report out, read the mission statement. And then what did you identify?
Okay. Number 5 is to propose, implement, and advocate developmental and human service delivery programs for socially and economically disadvantaged children and families.
Okay, so who's the population?
Okay, we found the population is socially and economically disadvantaged children and families. But we found this one to be lacking in 2 areas.
Okay,
We found it to be lacking in the outcome.
okay,
It does identify services, developmental and human service delivery programs,
okay,
and it's also lacking in relationships.
okay, good.
And we felt that we could improve it through relationships by adding at the end with the families and community.
Okay, okay, that's a good choice.
Yeah. We haven't, we didn't get an outcome
Okay.
to put into it, but as I say, this one is lacking in 2 areas.
Okay. Well, what might possibly be an outcome if you're providing this kind of service, developmental and human services to handicapped children? What kind of change would you expect to see in that population? This is up for grabs for anyone, and including group 4 mission. You know, what kind of changes as a community would you expect to see from services delivered to handicapped children?
Education.
So, okay, so now it's a change in their condition, their status.
Self-sufficient.
Self-sufficiency. Yeah, it could be that is a move towards self-sufficiency, you might add in there, so that, developmentally disabled children become more self-sufficient. Maybe one of your outcomes. Okay, very good job, you guys. Okay, so group 3 with mission 3.
Oh, okay. We have creating solutions to poverty, improving lives in our community. Creating solution, we look at that as the service, but I have a problem with that. What
Okay.
kind of service is that?
Okay,
So,
yeah, that's,
Then the other one is population. We look at that as the poverty.
okay,
And
Okay.
Then the outcome, improving life.
okay,
Then relationship, our community. So the problem, as I said, is creating solutions. What solution? We don't know.
mhm,
Then the poverty, I don't know.
The relationship in terms of our community, it's ownership that everyone shares a common goal to be able to move forward together. However, creating solutions is very vague, so it
Yes.
would definitely,
Yes.
even though this is something that could easily fit on a t-shirt or the back of a business card,
Yeah, I would love
it
it.
would be something that we would want to add a little bit more to give a little bit more clarity in regards to what we're actually doing as an agency.
okay. You guys have some very valid points. Those were the areas that we are weak. And even for your population, you can assume that they're individuals in poverty, but they
Exactly.
don't really specify
Yeah.
what that particular population, unlike group 4, where they said children who were developmentally disabled. Yours just talks about creating solutions to poverty. So you make that assumption that the population are people in poverty. This is more like a tagline as opposed to a mission statement, just like we have helping people changing lives.
Yeah.
That's kind of along the line of what this is. So, it needs some boosting. Okay, table number 2. Who's reporting now?
Okay.
Your
Well,
mouth is full.
yeah. Excuse me. I need the energy to really take on this task. So our mission statement is to administer grants which provide assistance to the low-income citizens of the state to promote self-sufficiency.
Okay,
So we identified our service as administering grants which provide assistance. We identified the low-income citizens were our population,
okay,
and our relationship was going to be to the state. Then our outcome is going to be promoting self-sufficiency. Kathy had brought up some key issues in the mission that weren't defined and were kind of more general and broad. So we found improvements could be made in the services department where it says to administer grants, what type of grants are being administered or what type of assistance is in accordance to those grants, if it's a federal, local, or state grant. And then you also have the state. She brought up a key point where, what state? It could be the state of people, it could be the state of California. And so she brought it back to even our mission statement where we actually define Community Action Partnership of Riverside County is going to
Yes.
provide these services. So,
Yes. Okay.
yeah, so that's where we're at.
On your outcome, what does self-sufficiency mean to you? And the way they say to promote self-sufficiency, if you're promoting self-sufficiency, are you looking at a result or just an activity? Does it matter if anyone actually becomes self-sufficient?
There's also more general, promoting self-sufficiency says, hey, we should all be self-sufficient as opposed to achieving it
Yeah.
or requiring it. And
Okay.
that's where,
Yeah.
yeah.
So those are some of the weaker areas that are in there. You want to be very clear. So when you're changing lives, what is it that we're changing about their lives? So if, for instance, in your own mission statement, you're increasing self-sufficiency. So we're actually looking for a demonstrated result. Promoting could just be outreach. And terms like promoting or hoping for or whatever doesn't hold the agency accountable. So when you're looking at mission statements, can you hold the agency accountable, and how would you know that they achieved those results if you don't identify what those results would look like? So it's okay to talk about self-sufficiency, even though it's a little vague, but there is a difference between promoting and achieving self-sufficiency that centers around the accountability of that particular agency. Okay, so we have our last group, group number 1.
First I'll read it. In partnership with the community to assist low-income people to achieve self-determination. And our population was low-income people. The outcome is to achieve self-determination.
Okay.
The services, just to assist.
Okay.
And the relationship is in partnership with the community.
Okay. So what's weak about this mission statement?
Well, we found, first of all, it's not clear when you say to assist.
Yes. Yes.
And then it's also not clear to achieve self-determination. Self-determination to do what, to be what.
And how do you know that you're self-determined and about what, So it isn't as precise as it could potentially be. But good job, everybody. You guys did an excellent job. And one of the things that you want to look at is the mission statement is the foundational guidance to everything that your agency does. So if you're looking at instructing people, giving guidance to programs, going after funding, you have to look at, does this facilitate our mission? Now, do you guys want to take a stab at doing your own mission statement? We could do it together as a group? Okay.
Are you evaluating it?
Okay, your executive director's not here, so we're going to take a stab at it. But the assistant director's here, so we'll blindfold her.
This is the one the commissioner came up with. I have it.
How are you doing?
Let's take a stab.
That's a new one?
Yeah, did somebody say, is this the new one?
It's the same one?
It's the same.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
she
it's
said that
the
we
same.
covered a new one. We just had a
It's the
retreat.
same mission
No.
statement, but
You weren't
this
here.
one you can write on. Can I have the extra one?
Oh, sure. We'll take-
This one you can write on. Okay, so, Community Action
This one's
Partnership of
different? You can write
Riverside
on.
County's mission statement as it stands today goes, the Community Action Partnership of Riverside County with the community strives to eliminate poverty by facilitating opportunities towards self-sufficiency through education, wealth building, advocacy, and community organizing. So who's the population?
That's what's missing.
I don't know. What, as it
That's
says,
what's
with the-
missing.
Low income.
That's what's
Does
missing.
it say that in the mission
No,
statement?
that's what's missing.
Okay, so population
Is
needs to
missing.
be identified. And if we're a community action agency, who are we identifying as our population?
Yeah, it's missing.
Low income. That's a critical part of
It's not
it.
in here.
As a part of the legislation and the mission of community action, it is to serve low income. So the population is missing. What's the outcome?
Facilitate
Yeah.
opportunities
Education,
for-
Opportunity.
Self-sufficiency, okay? And there's another outcome in here.
Eliminate poverty.
Eliminate poverty. So there's two strong outcomes. Okay, what are the services?
Education, wealth building, advocacy.
Okay, and what about relationships
Community.
With the community.
with the community? Okay, so this is a pretty strong mission statement, The only part that we're missing is the low income. Now, the board, the community action, the commission, is the one who develops the mission statement. And I do remember the conversation. I was a consultant on that project. And one of the conversations that they had was about identifying low income within this particular county, of wanting to be general enough so that services would be open to benefit people as they qualify. But when you don't address who your and we're going to talk about primary customers and secondary customers, when you don't address that in your mission statement, it gives too much wiggle room to move away from your mission statement. And that's a good segue for us to go to in terms of talking about mission change and mission drift. So if you would please turn to page 18.
So the low income was left out on purpose.
It was intentionally left out. Now, that may be something that they may reconsider. I understand that your strategic plan is up for review, and we're going to talk about when are the prime times to change your mission statement, when to review it and when to change it. And so it might be that an opportunity is coming up that would facilitate a review of the mission statement and maybe the inclusion of that population so that it's consistent with legislation. Okay, so on page 18, we're talking about mission change or mission drift. How often, do you guys know how often your mission statement is reviewed? Anybody?
5 years?
2 years?
3 to 5 years?
3 to 5 years. I think is about 3 to 5 years because that's basically when strategic plans are done. And Drucker stresses that at minimum, a mission statement should be reviewed when an organization reviews a strategic plan or whenever there is an addition or elimination of a program or services. It doesn't mean that you have to change it. It means that you need to review it and determine whether a change is needed. This is kind of different from where agencies will adopt a mission statement and then just passively let it go on, without making any alterations to it. And while it's important to review the mission statement, you shouldn't change it without a cause. There's got to be a viable reason why you want to change your mission statement. And, if you take a look at the first paragraph on page 19, if I could get someone to read this, what are some of the other reasons why a mission should change? If someone would read that first bulleted set of paragraph.
Has done a comprehensive study of current circumstances, has identified a need for restatement of the mission or reorientation of the agency to meet new challenges and opportunities, and make a conscious decision to change the agency focus.
Is there any other reason you can think of why an agency may want to change its mission statement or should change its mission statement?
It's totally changed its focus of where it wants to result.
Yes, it's totally changed its focus.
I thought of one.
Oh, it's on it, that's already there, sorry.
Okay.
In pursuing funding opportunities that aren't already in the mission.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that.
Developing new programs?
Developing new programs or elimination of service. You've done such a good job out in the community that the services are no longer needed. you know, when you've been that successful. Let's take a look at some mission changes. If I could get someone to read the March of Dimes story, the whole great box for me.
The March of Dimes reinvented itself, and today its mission is improved pregnancy outcomes and reduction and elimination of birth defects through education and research.
Okay. And if you could read the top two things above it, March of Dimes and then the original mission of the March of Dimes.
This is an example of a mission change because the organization achieves its goal.
Mm-hmm. And then what's
The organization mission of the March of Dimes was to eradicate polio.
Okay.
So they changed their.
Mhm. So what happened? Did the March of Dimes meet its goal?
Yes.
Mhm. Okay, so now you got an agency that's sitting out there that finds the need is no longer in community. So what did they do?
Close up shop, just kidding. They redefined their mission.
They refocused their attention.
Yeah.
They're retired now.
Yeah.
That's amazing, though.
Yeah. I'm a prime example of that mission change. I was born in 1954, and I'm presuming that March of Dimes had eradicated polio pretty much by that time. I was born with a cleft lip, and my parents were poor and did not have the money to be able to do the surgery, but I would not have survived infancy had I not had surgery. March of Dimes paid for my surgeon, my surgery, my hospital bill. My doctors donated their services, and my father's employer allowed him to be off for that. That would be for like family care right now. But had the March of Dimes not changed this mission to help fund programs that were dealing with birth defect, I wouldn't have had the surgery. I wouldn't have been here today. There were no other alternatives, and there wasn't an alternative to me surviving infancy with the birth defect that I have. So I'm a beneficiary of this change of mission for the March of Dimes. And I'm so glad they did. Because I've been living for this moment to come and give you guys this workshop. Dreamed since infancy. I said one day there's going to be a CAP out there that's going to need ROMA training. 60 years later, they'll be there. So, Corinne, you had a
Well, that's
comment?
funny you mentioned that because of what I went through with my situation. They've been funding a lot of research and development of programs for
Wonderful.
premature babies and for infants in NICU. So that's very personal when you do mention that.
Yeah, it is. It's, you know, when you become the living proof of somebody's mission statement, it is very personal. And that's how you have to look at the customers that you serve. Are they living proof of our mission statement, what we do every day? You know, these are the results, you know, that, you know, I had the best surgeons available at the time that I needed it when my family could not afford to do it. So could someone read the block for YMCA for me? Has everybody had a chance to read? Okay, you've been voluntold, Tamara.
The YWCA, this is an example of a mission change because the organization expanded its interest to include new elements. The original mission of the YWCA was to provide housing, recreation, and a faith-based community center for young women. Well, what happened? The organization changed its focus. The new YWCA mission is eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all by providing safe places for women and girls, building strong women leaders, and advocating for women's rights and civil rights in Congress. It's a mouthful, that one.
It is. So what happened with the
Pardon?
They changed
They
their.
changed it.
They
They
expanded their focus.
Wow.
So where we have with the March of Dimes, they recreated their focus because they had achieved their goal. With the YWCA, they expanded because somewhere along the way, probably doing a needs assessment, they determined that there were other critical priorities in the lives of women that they were not addressing, that they wanted to address as a part of their mission.
They took the faith-based community piece out of it too, probably.
Oh, that's interesting. I
Yeah,
didn't
probably
notice
not
that.
to exclude other races or other bases, faiths or whatever.
That's, the Ys are a faith-based institution, just like Habitat for
Right,
Humanity
but they
is.
took it out.
But in terms of what guides them and directs them, it's the need of the community, and it's not centered on, do you share the same beliefs?
Right.
And okay, so let's turn to page 20. And this is on mission drift. Now, there's a difference between mission change and mission drift. So could I get a volunteer to read the very first paragraph that starts with the mission drift is the phenomenon?
Sure, I'll read. Mission drift is the phenomenon which occurs when the agency departs from its original purpose and core values to take on a task that is perhaps related, but not directly in support of the mission. In some cases, this is a response to external events, such as available funding for something the organization never did before. In other cases, internal events can lead to mission drift, such as major turnover of staff and/or board members.
Okay. This is very important to be mindful of because it's so easy to drift. And you have to remember that your mission statement is what is guiding your agency. It's your agency's reason for existence. And if you focus on that, the basis on which your mission statement is developed and set, it's easier not to drift. You had mentioned earlier one reason why people's mission may change would be for additional funding. One of the things we talk about in planning as fund development and grant writing is that it needs to support your mission. It's got to be a win-win situation. You don't want to go after funding where it's not facilitating your mission because you end up working for the funder and not working for your programs. Okay, we call that the tail wagging the dog. So sometimes agencies will go after big monies because they need the money, but it has nothing to do. They can stretch it, tweak it a little, like let's use youth. Okay, we work with youth. We have a specialized goal for youth, education and job skill development. Maybe the Department of Justice puts out, a multi-million-dollar grant that focuses on re-entry of adjudicated youth that are coming out of detention homes and trying to reintegrate with their family and get reestablished in the community. Okay, you could make that work, but is that really a part of the mission statement to educate? Sorry. I just drew a mind blank. Educate, wealth building, advocacy, and community organizing. That money would be nice. But now you have a whole separate program that is focused on serving that funder, and it's not tied directly back to the mission statement. So who are you working for? Are you working for your own agency? Or are you working for the funder? That's something that you have to really keep in mind, because money's attractive and money is needed, but money may not be supportive of your mission. It's got to be a win-win situation for you. Okay, so at the bottom of the page, would somebody read the gray box that Drucker tells us?
Defining the nonprofit mission is difficult, painful, and risky, but it alone enables you to set goals and objectives and go to work. Unless the mission is explicitly expressed, clearly understood, and supported by every member of the agency, the enterprise is at the mercy of events. Decision makers throughout will decide and act on the basis of different, incompatible, and conflicting ideas. They will pull in opposing directions without even being aware of their divergence, and your performance is what suffers.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have any of you been on a board or know of a board where board members have hidden agendas?
Yes.
And they try to get their hidden agenda approved as services or funding? Yeah. Or even staff, you have staff that do that. You know, but if you have a very clear defining mission statement as the foundation of what you're doing, it prevents that drifting towards that agenda and all, and brings you right back to what defines your mission statement. And part two, which we're going to do after we take a short break. In part two, we're going to look at what is the information that informs you in making decisions about what your mission should be. And we're going to talk about needs assessment, community assessment, you know, what is the state of the land that you serve, and how that informs your mission statement. So I just want to recap some of the important things that we have talked about with mission statements. In this section on mission statement, it stresses the importance of connecting the agency's mission to the establishment of outcomes. That is often overlooked. What you're in business for is to make change, either on a, what are the three levels? Family, community, and agency, to make a change. So the successful implementation of ROMA must follow from this conceptual framework that's established by the organization and by the mission, having a strong mission statement. The results orientation is reflected in the mission statement. That is so key and so critical. And the Drucker Foundation Assessment Tool is a good place to start, and it really reinforces the elements that should be captured when you're developing these 5 questions, essential question. What is the mission statement? And in part 2, we're going to do who are your customers and what do they value. It's an accepted management tool. It's as you hear funders asking nowadays, is it evidence-based? And the Drucker management practice is evidence-based. There's a lot of study and research that has gone into it. The other thing is not-for-profit agencies are mission-driven, and I would have to say all community action agencies, whether they're nonprofit or public, are by nature are mission-driven, not profit-driven. And the mission statement should have 2 key things in it. Why are we in business, and what results are we trying to achieve? If it doesn't have that, you don't have a mission statement. And it needs to be short, sharply focused, and contain the key elements of population, outcome, services, and transportation.
Transportation.
Transportation. What was that fourth element? Relationships. I like you like me, we work together for the community. You know, that's the new song for, what's the purple dinosaur? What was his name?
Barney.
Barney, that's Barney's new song. It's for community. Okay. And an agency mission statement should be dynamic. It should be inspiring. It should be having you come every day and saying, am I achieving this goal? This is what I'm here about. You know, if you have something that's dry and boring, you're going like, oh, okay, here's work for today. But when you're changing people's lives and when you're impacting people, and that's written in a statement that you can attach to and engage to, you want people to want to be a part of that mission. So it needs to be inspiring. And it should be reviewed on a regular basis to prevent mission drift, okay. And one other thing that we need to look at is, remember Mr. Logic Model? And it's blank? Okay. So if this is foundational, if the mission statement is foundational, where do you think on the logic model it would go?
Agency.
Okay, now these are our levels. Is it family, is it agency, or is it community? But if I'm the foundation of all of this work, where would I seat my mission statement?
At the
Bottom. Great, this is perfect. Okay. As we go along, you're going to see this start filling in. And we're going to build a logic model. So in your logic model, at the bottom of your logic model, you should always have your mission because it is guiding you. So if all of the stuff you put up here as we build this does not facilitate what your mission is, you really need to ask, why is it up here? Because that's when you start getting into mission drift. You know, if it doesn't connect, it shouldn't be up here. Or you need to review your mission and say, no, this is just like March of Dimes says, we're going to go for birth defects, or YWCA said we're going to expand to other services and needs. Okay, so it's, when we look at the first segment, you know why we're in business. That's what the mission statement is all about. And it's the driving force behind what you do, what kind of services, what kind of outcomes, what kind of relationships that you build. But the agency has to have a perceived need in the community. You can't just say, oh, here's the need, without going to community to find out what people, your population, determine to be the need. So how do you go about knowing what services are appropriate to provide? What do you do with your agency to determine what services you need?
Survey or assessment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, communities, and how do you do that? What do you know what's a part of the community needs assessment?
Well, there's focus groups to create like a survey that we provide to the community. Then we have persons that go and actually complete the needs survey.
Okay. So face-to-face, like surveys,
Yeah.
interviews, and then focus groups on the results of those surveys. Okay, that's a good start. That's a good place to be. So you're actually going out in community and gathering the information. So those are some really good points that we're going to discuss as we move through this. If I could have someone, or if you could turn back to page 13, and if I could get someone to read those last 5 learning objectives for me. Okay, Richard.
Okay, participants identify the difference between family, agency, or community needs statements. Participants understand that the proper identification of the problem sets the path for the solution. Participants recognize that identification of resources is an important part of the assessment process. Participants learn the importance of gathering data from multiple sources to assure a comprehensive community assessment. Participants are introduced to data analysis and prioritization processes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Bridget. So now if you could turn back to page 21, where we start community assessment. A community assessment is a systematic process for creating a profile of the needs and the resources that are available in the community in which you serve. Every community action agency has a service territory, and that's what they're responsible for. CAP Riverside happens to be Riverside County, which is the 4th largest landmass county in the state of California. So you have a lot of territory to cover, a lot of territory, and a lot of people. Over 2 million people live in this community, and we're going to find out, who are your primary participants and who are your secondary participants. Simply because they're not low income doesn't mean that there aren't residents out there that are impacted or who benefit from some of the services that community action provides. So what do you think community is? How would you define community?
People,
Okay, people.
group of people that share the same surroundings, the same resources.
Okay, so now we people and then group of people who share same resources and surroundings. Any other factors or elements that you want to put in for defining a community?
Stakeholders?
Stakeholders, okay. And along with that, partners.
Residents?
Residents. What about geography? Doesn't your community have geographical boundaries? Okay. So when you talk about the service territory for this community action agency, what's your service territory? Riverside County, okay. And so if we take what Tamara just said about residents, you're looking at the community are the residents of Riverside County. That's the specific community that you're serving. Okay.
Does race also count as?
It could, as a smaller division within that community.
Like the Indian tribe, for example.
Yes,
You may
yes,
have that as
yes,
well.
very much so. And also programs, funders will look at they'll look at specific populations, but they also look at specific community. So, for instance, I understand CAP Riverside was very supportive of the Southeast Asian communities that were within parts of your county, like the Pass area and the Paris and Moreno Valley area. And so when you look at groups of people that may have like languages, like culture, like values and whatever, that could constitute a community. And so within the bigger domain of Riverside County, you may have smaller communities. What about your cities and your unincorporated areas? Those would be communities as well, people who live within a specific supervisorial district or zip code area. So there's a lot of ways that you can define community. If you would turn to page 22, there's a lot of different ways that you can gather information. And a needs assessment may be thought of as a way to identify the differences between what exists and what doesn't exist. So now if you'll take a look at the services in the middle of the page, that the community services block grant generally will fund. Take a look at that. If I could get someone to read the left column and someone to read the right column.
Employment, education, income management, housing, emergency services, nutrition.
Linkages, self-sufficiency, health, services for youth, services for senior citizens.
Okay, so which of these services does your agency provide? Do you provide employment services?
Yes.
Okay, income management? What about education?
Emergency services.
Emergency services? What about education?
Yes.
Education,
Okay, so what educational programs do you provide?
Earned income tax credit.
Camp Academy.
Okay, CAP Academy, no, earned
Budget
income
budget
may be money, unless you're doing financial literacy.
Yeah, what's getting the
Okay.
word out about
Okay.
what the credit is and
Okay.
how to claim it.
Okay,
budget counseling.
budget counseling, okay, good. What about linkages?
Is that referrals?
Partnerships with other agencies,
Yeah.
okay? Self-sufficiency, what's your self-sufficiency program? IDA and.
Step up to SS, step up to SS.
Yes, Step Up.
Project
and
Bliss.
Project Bliss, thank you. Okay, health, do you do health?
Yes, weatherization.
Ah,
Yeah.
interesting way of
Perfect.
looking, yeah, that is, that fits right into that, okay. Services for youth.
Career
Yes.
apprenticeship,
Okay.
project lead.
Project Leads.
What about
Communication.
services for
Yeah,
seniors?
Yes, energy assistance.
Energy assistance, okay. So you cover the whole gamut,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Good.
Okay, and so as you know, just referring back again to the 6 national goals, all of these link somewhere within the 6 national goals. So you're hitting all of the national goals. Okay, so at the bottom of the page, you know, you want to take a look at the 3 different levels. You know, are you serving family, agency, and community? When we think about the needs of the community, are each of those 3 levels being looked at
We're talking about with CAP or just?
with CAP, with your agency?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Based on these services and this
Mhm.
program.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So if you turn to page 23, I need a volunteer to read the first arrow, someone to read the second arrow, and someone to read the third arrow. This is determining, is it a family need, is it an agency need, or a community need, or a mix of all 3 of the needs? So, any volunteers for the first arrow?
You, I
Okay.
can do it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You could identify this need as individuals do not have high school diplomas, which is an individual or family level need.
Okay, I'm sorry, I should have identified that we're looking at education as
Oh.
one of the service areas.
Mhm.
So when you think about the need in the community about education, you know, and you may feel that education is an important community need, the first bullet may be by individual, by
Mhm.
family. And family level is always identified by people. So when it's got people making changes, it's a family level, okay? So someone for number 2, Olga?
You could identify the impact that the high dropout rate has on the community and articulate the need in this way. Our community does not have youth who are prepared to take productive roles as adults.
Okay. So the key word in that statement is our community. And a lot of times when we write about community and the national performance indicators, it may be the number of, say, after-school slots that are available at each school. Now, that's a community. If it doesn't have enough slots, then we don't have opportunities for kids to get served. Now, how would you translate that into a family need with after-school program?
Parents that are working?
Close. Who benefits from the most? From-
Community.
Okay.
The hours
The youth, the children, the youth.
Hours.
The children, okay.
Uh,
Individual children do not have access to safe and affordable after-school activities while their parents are at work. So it's the kids that don't have access because the community doesn't have the opportunity or the slots available for them. You know, I know right now you're serving about, with your Project Lead program, about 1,200 kids. But are there only 1,200 kids in Riverside County? You know, there's a lot of kids that aren't getting served with after-school programs because the community doesn't have those programs available. Okay, so how about someone reading arrow number 3?
You could think about the needs of our agency as it considers the issue of school dropout rates. You might say our agency has a need for additional resources to establish or expand GED preparation program for adult customers who have not graduated high school.
Okay.
Agency.
So the agency, what is the need of the agency in addressing the issue of education?
Resources.
Resources. I know that there was one agency that we assisted with technical assistance where we had rewrote the need statement to an individual need, but the agency need was that they didn't, that these kids lived in a rural area and they didn't have transportation to get to the after-school program. And the agency didn't have a means of transportation to transport them. So the agency need was a bus that they could go, and a driver, and insurance, and gas, and maintenance, and all the other stuff that makes that bus operate, you know. Didn't have complete resources to be able to go around and pick up the kids and then take them to the after-school program. So we took education and we framed it from the individual, which is the individuals don't have a high school diploma, to community, which was the community doesn't have an educated workforce, basically. It's citizenry. It doesn't have a level of education to really support what's going on in the community. And the third one is that the agency doesn't have the resources to provide these services, like say a GED program or whatever. So that's 3 different ways that you can do that. But one of the things that you have to look at is what is your priority? What's the most important need? And identify it in terms of one of those levels. The need may cover all 3 levels, but your priority for that need is going to be just one level. It'll either be family, community, or agency as it lifts up out of the different levels and the priorities and importance. So we're going to do an activity. It's on page 24. And what I'd like for you guys to do is you're going to work individually at first, and then we're going to have some large group discussion. This is specifically about your community and about your agency when you talk about identifying needs. Now, all of you have identified programs, whether you are running a program or supporting programs, so you should have some certain level of what you perceive to be the need in the community. And what we're going to do is we're going to write up you're going to first individually write down what you think are the top 3 needs. Now, it doesn't have to be, we shouldn't come back with 12 statements of the identified needs in the strategic plan for your agency. This is from your own perspective, from the work that you do within the agency and within the community. Pick what you think are your top 3 concerns for Riverside County, the community of Riverside County. And I'll give you 5 minutes to do that. So in the space in the page on here, and it says rules, you cannot use one word to identify the need. This will not help you to understand the situation. It is too broad. So no one-worders. And 2, and you cannot say it's all 3. You want to identify your needs. Is it family? Is it agency? Or is it community? Okay, so let's do that part of the instruction right now. Each of you individually identify 3 and identify the level for it.
So
family
family
need.
a lot of
Yeah.
different.
Okay, and then, so 1 is transportation,
And 1 has to do with
2,
close proximity.
and 3 is gonna be what, the food?
I know you can see in somebody else's backyard.
That's
Lack of.
that's a community need.
Which
Lack
one?
of safety.
I put family.
Surround them, scares them. So if they're scared, they're not gonna deal with problems in a
Do you
positive
look at
way.
that as a major?
I think that unemployed and unemployed is a community and family because if you boost the economy, if everybody's better
For
employed.
example,
We have a healthier community, you have access to fresh
You're
food.
going to keep your statement simple, and one person from your group is going to report out on your 3 priorities.
No, I think Kathy can have it.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.
She's been out for a while. Okay, how do you want to, I have access to healthy and affordable grocery store, nutritional food, I could put.
It was almost like
Yeah,
a
fine. Or
So
healthy
what
and
would you think
affordable
would be our
food,
most,
or grocery store. How do you guys want to do it?
It's fresh produce, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a grocery store, it can be a farmer's market too. Remember?
And then one of the last one was more resources for emergencies.
Not A and B, look at
That
Yes,
deal
love
with-
these for $2.80. I saw that, I was in Vegas with Debra one time, I was at the AM, I started crying.
And now they have to
These
get
people were in there
on a
and
bus
just,
rather than we should
they were
be
buying
able to
chips, they were buying that,
not
there was a box
necessarily
of
a
cream
one
wheat, there was like
one stop
$4.32
shop,
just for that.
but at least be able to give.
They could eat cheaper in the casino, so that's why they were buying chips and garbage, and I just sat there going, it just hit home, it was like, oh, yeah.
And
True.
if there isn't affordable food, nutritious food, you know, how can you get access to that? You know, how can you purchase that for your children? And then what you're teaching your children are unhealthy eating habits. They learn to eat on their own. They don't learn to eat from
If you don't have a good
it's
education,
like what's on the dollar value menu
And
and,
McDonald's,
you know, every dollar can cost
Yes.
or Jack.
Yep, so education.
Which is not the most nutritious.
I don't know, that chicken's.
And they all.
Not chicken.
I grew up with this
So I for one don't have healthy and I got the hips to show. So, okay, so let's wrap up. Because we're coming to the close of the workshop time allotment, and we've got more stuff to be able to cover. So I'll take volunteers this time with groups.
We'll go.
Okay, Mark, if you could scribe for me on
Up
the
there?
board? Yeah, up here. Yeah, so people can see. So what I want you to do is your scribe is reporting out. Mark's going to write it up here. Just one statement. You don't have to explain why it's a priority, but just like how it says, you know, low-income kids don't have high school diplomas, you know, so do your top 3. Identify the level. Is it family, agency, or community? And Mark's and what we're doing is that we are going to tally how many of you have the same identified needs? Okay? You guys are considered key informants, you're experts in the community, and this is basically what would be called a key informant survey. Okay, so who would like to go first? Okay, group 2, and then group 4.
The first one we identified was transportation to access available services.
Access available services.
Access to them. You look like a teacher.
It used to be.
And was that, what level was that?
We put community.
Okay, so just put a C at the, yeah, okay. What's your second one?
Second one was employment, unemployed, and underemployed.
And what was that one?
Family,
Family, okay. And the third one?
access to healthy and affordable food. We also made that, put that as family.
Okay. Okay, thank you, group 2. Okay, so group 4. That's y'all back there.
Okay, education is one.
Okay, remember the rule, not one word. You gotta have one.
Education, very expensive, and that equals family.
Okay, so affordable education.
Affordable education.
Okay, and your second one?
Employment, more job opportunities.
Okay. Was that family or community?
That's community.
Okay, put a C here, and then
Yeah,
2 hash marks.
Mhm.
Okay, and 1 hash mark there, 1 hash mark there. See how we're gonna tally them, we're gonna count them. Okay, and your third one?
And our third one is cultures. How do we change the minds of people living in poverty? And that was family.
Okay, so what's the need, what's the need that you're seeing? Is, you gave me how you're going to do it, change the mindset of the poor, but what's the need behind changing the mindset?
We were using an example of our project list program where we have what is it, circles of support and expanding
Okay,
that program.
This for
okay.
Changing
So-
generational poverty.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, how about, people in poverty have a mindset
Yeah,
of poverty? Okay,
and that's the only expectation they have in mind.
okay. So people in poverty have a mindset of poverty. And that was family, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, group 3, since he's up here.
Our
Group
3 are actually all up there: transportation, employment, and affordable education.
Transportation, employment, and
Education?
affordable education, okay?
Gee.
And you can see this report out here.
It's all going down. It's key.
Actually, it was kind of a combination of the employment and affordable education. We were talking about expanding the community, that our community college has drastically reduced their curriculum and their availability, to expand the affordable education, and the employment goes kind of with that, to be able to be more than underemployed, you need the
Okay.
education.
Okay, Okay, so affordable education. Affordable, how about if we added affordable and accessible education?
Sure.
And then we need to put a C, because you said that was community for you. Okay, and add a C to that. Okay. And was employment community, or was it family? Oh, we got family and community both. Okay. Okay, and what's your third one?
Actually, we had a couple others, but there was the availability of clean water.
Ah, okay, availability of clean water.
Just water.
In Tulare,
Water, yeah.
Tulare
it's
County has probably enough water.
in very big demand now.
And that is what level? What's the primary level?
I would say family. Well,
Community.
Family and community.
Okay, so let's put an F plus a C.
I can't put all three though, right?
No.
It can't be all three?
No, yeah, we'll go and vote what's the more primary concern. Okay, and then put a hash mark there. Okay. So let's see. Employment. Got the #1 vote. Okay,
Education.
and then affordable education
Yeah.
comes in at 2.
Number 3 is transportation.
And I thought I saw one that had 2. Yeah, that's
Transportation.
one.
Transportation.
And transportation.
Gotta be able to get there.
Okay, so, #1, employment, underemployed or unemployed, and employment opportunities. What's the greatest priority, a family level or a community level? You need to pick one. So let's come to a consensus. How many of you feel that the priority level of intervention and impact is on a family level? By show of hands.
It's community.
Community has responsibility.
Well, yeah, I think that for a community action agency, it would be family, but it needs to work in conjunction with an economic development, which would be communities to provide the job.
For the community.
So now, keep in mind that you could apply all 3 levels to each one of these. But where you as an agency are going to reach for the greatest impact, level of impact, when it comes to employment, are you going to try to do it on a family level as the greater priority, or are you going to try and do it on a community? It doesn't mean that you don't do the other one, but when you're focused, when you're delivering services, when your eye is on the goal and the prize, what level comes first for you?
It's gonna be family because that's part of one of our goals, ROMA, to where the individual's lives are improved.
Okay, and as, and it's across the board except for agency, for your 4 goals, family and community. But right now, let's just take a vote. How many of you are saying the #1 priority under employment is family?
Can I
By
ask you a
show of
question
hands.
first?
Yes.
Before I vote? Are you asking where you want to focus or where you can have the greatest impact? Because if you focus on the individual family, you can have the greatest impact on the whole community as a whole.
Okay. Well, that's something that you need to calculate in terms of your decision, in terms of, and it's almost the same, if you're going to focus on something, it generally generates that impact that you want. You wouldn't focus on something and then have a low impact, if that's your primary focus. Do you see what I mean? It's almost saying if that's your priority and that's where you're going to have the greatest impact, that's where you're going to focus at. Okay, so what you want to look at, do you want to have the greatest impact on families, or do you want to have the greatest impact on community?
I'd rather have a community because it serves more people, right?
I'm going family.
Okay, I'm in for family. Let me see a show of hands so I can get a count. How many for family? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, 1, 2, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 8. Okay.
Okay.
So, family wins.
Which did you pick?
Family. Because if you don't stabilize the individual family, you don't have a community. And if you're waiting for the community to provide jobs for these unemployed and underemployed people, when, I mean, the state is losing employers in the droves, you know, let alone our county. So in order for us to have a healthy community, you've got to start at the family level. We've got to get people employed. And because where the employment helps the community is that it's putting revenue and income back into the community. You know, in terms of a tax base, in terms of beautification, in terms of resale and property value, in terms of industries coming in and stuff like that. But you can't do that without an employment force and all. And an employment force is individuals, and individuals are family. Yeah. So that would be my vote, you know, for that. We can write NPIs, performance indicators with outcomes, changes in the life on a family level and a community level. But if I only could go for dollars for one or the other, you want to go for family, you know. Or let me put it this way, that's where I would go. Okay. So was that the only one? Let's see. Okay, so now let's talk about affordable and accessible education. We got family and we have community. What say y'all by show of hands?
Based on your discussion and family then.
Family.
Family? Is there anyone that would say it's not family as a priority? Your hand didn't go up in either one of them.
Well,
So,
I just look at it
tell
from a
me.
different perspective,
Yeah, okay.
because I'm looking at the system in place that employs. You could do whatever you can for family to have them gain employment, where the system doesn't have accessibility for employment, there's not going to be any employment. It's kind of like during the civil rights movement when Martin Luther King was saying he's leading, I'm leading my people to a burning house, because we integrated, but now we don't have economic rights. So if the system doesn't have accessibility to economic rights, then you're going to see the disenfranchised, the lower income, continue to be impoverished and unemployed because they don't have access to economic rights. And so that's where I think community establishes the system, and that's where you get organized unions and you get policy and legislature that advocates for employment.
Okay, it's a very good point, you know, and where that may translate into is that if you have the need identified on the family level, then some of the outcomes that you may write for or some of the cross-related changes may be within the community sector. So, but the primary, if you could only identify it on one level, you know, it needs to work in tandem. It can't work separately. You can't go to community and build jobs and have people unemployed. And you can't try and find employment if you don't have the community building the jobs. So it does work and dovetail hand in hand, but if you could only get funding for one or the other, you might say get funding for family, and then some of the services and activity may be that advocacy and linkage and leveraging with community employers to provide those slots, kind of like how you do with your veteran employment training program. There's not enough jobs out there for all of the unemployed veterans, but there are jobs out there. So while you're trying to move to get more jobs, you need to get the people who are unemployed placed into the jobs that exist. So, okay, so let's keep in mind that our first one is employment. Our second one is affordable and accessible education, and our third one is transportation. Now, do you guys know what your 3 priorities are right now?
Yes,
Okay, what are they?
education, employment, social services.
Yes, okay, so you got 2. You could look at transportation almost as a part of social services, because it is a means in which someone can go about changing their life. That is a service provided to them. So it could be free bus passes, it could be reduced transportation costs, it could be additional bus routes, it could be carpooling. There's a lot of different services that could come under transportation. So you're almost pretty much, in terms of your discussion, aligned with what your goals were. Okay, so let's quickly go to who are the customers and what do they value on page 25. And Drucker basically, one thing, let's push this out of the way so you guys can see. Okay, so on our logic model, we've identified needs. And this goes under column number 1. So the first part of your logic model, you are asked, what are the needs of your community? And then as we continue the build, we'll go for resources. Okay.
Can you stop that for a second?
Okay, so now, so we are in a bit of a time crunch. We have gone over. What we will do is that we will finish this section of Module 2 with Module 3. And it's the setup of who are our customers and what do they value. And I really appreciate everybody's attendance and attention today. We'll cover the key points for Module 2 at the beginning of the next workshop, as well as, and please don't cheat, put your pre-test away and don't look at it again. Don't look up the answers at all. And we'll do the answers to the pre-test the next time as well, because the information is in the rest of the second part of the module. Okay. So thank you. We are scheduled for September. Can you guys get a little break? No, I'm actually going to be gone for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So the next session is actually November the 12th.
Okay.
Yeah.